And because housing is a basic human right, I believe that a safe, affordable home should not be out of reach for New Yorkers, and yet it is. That needs to change. In my State of the State address, I announced the New York Housing Compact, a bold plan to finally address New York's housing crisis by creating 800,000 new homes over the next decade. And that's on top of our last year's working with the legislature, $25 billion investment to create 100,000 affordable housing units. So this year we have to work together to increase the housing supply. And our goal is for housing stock in communities downstate is to grow by 3%, upstate by 1% every 3 years. It's very manageable. Spent a lot of time in local government. It's very doable. And we'll work with our local partners. But the whole objective is so families can stay in New York, kids can raise their own families where they grew up, employers don't have to worry about whether or not there's going to be employees in a community because they have a place to live. So people can access high-quality, good-paying jobs and realize their own dreams. We've failed so far. No longer is failure an option. And this is not a one-size-fits-all approach. Local governments, again, 14 years in local government, I know what they can do. We can bring them to this. They decide how they meet these targets. Whether it's developing old office parks, making changes to their zoning code, we'll help them. We'll partner with them with incentives. And we'll have a $250 million infrastructure fund because I know from my experience that's often the barrier. Well, who's going to pay for the sewers, the roads, the schools? Because we are all in this together, we will help them in ways like never before. And $20 million for planning assistance fund. Not every town has a large planning department. Let's help people. We can do that. And we'll support their efforts to change their zoning laws and make it easier to build housing. And another way to encourage growth in the New York City metropolitan area is something known as transit-oriented development. If you've not seen this, you need to go visit one of these sites. Extraordinary transformations of communities that are around these incredible train stations. We've spent a lot of money on train stations. They are beautiful. And the trains are equipped with Wi-Fi, they're functioning, they create a whole different experience. And the land around those train stations has grown dramatically in value. And yet, there's a parking lot sitting there, rundown warehouses, abandoned shops. We can do better than that. Oh, I know we can. So, we have invested in MTA's world-class commuter lines, and they are world-class. We've connected more people to jobs. We've created thriving downtowns. And that's why it makes just all the sense in the world to build new housing in those areas. So as part of the compact within the next 3 years, any municipality with a train station or a subway station can be part of the solution. They have to allow a minimum amount of housing within a half a mile of the station. Now, this also helps their tax base. And I know how important it is to localities to expand your tax base and tell employers we're open for business. We're going to help them catalyze change like they've never seen before, all positive. So the bottom line is more houses we build, you increase the housing stock, the prices go down. It's called supply and demand. And then New Yorkers get what they deserve, options, opportunities. And we have to make sure that the housing is safe. We have a lot of old housing stock here in the state of New York. I think it's among the oldest in the country. No New York child should ever be exposed and grow up in a home where they have lead poisoning. Despite the progress we've made, and there's places like Rochester that are doing a phenomenal job. I was just visiting them to find out how they drove down those numbers so incredibly over the last decade. We have over 7,000 kids still newly diagnosed in this day and age with lead poisoning. We know what it does to them, holds them back, greater chance of being held back in school, not getting services, sometimes ending up at the wrong end of the criminal justice system. We're going to invest nearly $40 million to create a fund to have a lead inspection requirement in rental properties in the 24 hardest hit communities is just to get started.